ball. It's time to do a follow-up on Kate and Jon Gosselin. World War IV is going on right now. The two of these parents can't seem to agree on anything, and when it comes to parenting, they don't speak. They only speak through the media. And Kate has run back to People magazine after Jon had an interview with the Daily Mail. Why can't you two just talk to each other? Okay. Kate is clapping back at Jon because Jon basically accused her of causing all of the issues with Collin. If you remember, Collin was placed in a facility for kids that are dealing with specific needs, and he claims that he had no idea where his son was, and he only found out where his son was after he received the message from his son's friend. He went and got Collin at the facility and has been working hard over the past several years to help Collin cope with being back at home while dealing with what he says is PTSD as a result of how his mother treated him. Well, Kate is clapping back, and she basically called Jon a abusive, and she claimed that he is violent. She also said she is done with this and wants him away from all of her children. This is the part that I just don't understand, because Kate has spent the better part of a decade, more than a decade, in the media. We have seen her do a lot of different things, from her daughter being caught on camera by when one of her sextuplets was like a toddler with her hand swatting the booty. She was also, paparazzi also spotted a wooden spoon on the side of her door in a car as she was unloading the kids back in the early 2000s. So this was a mom that had no problem using her hands and placing her hands on her children, and now she wants to call Jon out for the same thing. Now, it isn't to say that because one parent is doing it that another parent can't do it, and that part I'm not clear about with Jon. He says that nothing happened, that he only restrained Collin, and that there was nothing, that Collin had effectively filed a false report against him. He says the people that came to the house, the CYS, along with the police, closed the investigation, and that there was nothing that they could do, and that he's helping his son as best as he can, and that he is struggling right now with his mental health. So I wanted to go back in time, because she's calling out Jon, she's raising a stink, and I'm sitting here thinking, weren't you the same mom that literally ditched this kid, threw him into an institution, and then only saw him 3 times, according to Jon? Not to mention, there's this stinky little book that was written by Robert Hoffman that found journal entries of you where you talked about things that you did to your children back in 2006 and 2007. I mean, girl, some of the stuff that's in this that you wrote in your own words apparently is bad. For instance, on July 26, 2006, you said that Maddie was grouchy and received a few pats. That's the nice word for what you would do with the spanker, which was the wooden spoon that you used, and that you bought a whole new stash of these and you put them in the big blue bus. You had an emergency stash of wooden spoons in your bus. And Jon's the one that has issues here? Girl, please. How about the time when you were, when Collin was 2 and you wrote in your journal that you're too rough with him, and the girls see that and you feel guilty. You said, I'm too rough with him, and the girls see that. I feel so guilty that I treated him like that. I will set out tomorrow to be a better mommy. He was 2, Kate. Or how about the time when Joel was 2 and he got your wrath, and you said, I heard him getting into the drawers, and I went up and I SPANKED'd him and put him back in his crib. When nap was over, I left him there until we had already gone downstairs. I want him to know that I'm serious and that I will not tolerate crib climbing. Kate, he was 2. Or how about the time you got into a fight with Jon? Now, this might be indication that Jon also has some issues. You wrote this: things spiraled quickly into a big, ugly argument with Jon, and where Jon said really ugly things in front of the girls numerous times, and he scared me about his sanity. Seriously. I feel like we are the worst parents in the whole world. So back in 2006, you basically admitted what we all know. You guys are literally the worst parents. I don't understand why you continually play this game where you're constantly calling each other out all over the, through People Magazine and through the Daily Mail, and who's the worst parent. It's getting old. How about the time in 2006 where you spoke about Leah and how she had soiled herself during a nap, and you were angry with her and you shook her, you threw her in the bath, and you said she was scared and shaking out of fear. So who is the person that has a problem with their anger, girl? Or how about on January 2nd, 2007, from your same journal, you talked about how Collin knocked his high chair on the ground after receiving a verbal warning. So you got so angry that you grabbed him and you did the same thing with your wooden spoon as hard as you could and thought you might seriously hurt him. So I sent him to his crib and I whipped him into it very hard. How about a few months later when you really lost it on Collin and I pulled him up by the hair and used the spoon, and that you saw your father in yourself, who also you have said and has been reported to being rather firm with his hands with the children. And then there was when the 2-year-old Alexis played in the mop bucket and you told him in so many words that I felt like I may hurt. So I'm literally confused over here. You had no problem doing this openly. Heck, there are photos of you in the paparazzi caught you swatting your little girl's booty. There are photos of you screaming at your children. There are photos of the wooden spoon in your car that you allegedly have a stash of. So what is it, Kate? Are you the one that has the problem, or is it Jon? Or is it a combination of both? And all these years later, you have been divorced for 11 years. All these years later, you have 2 kids that don't want anything to do with you. Now, conversely, on your side, you've got kids that don't want anything to do with Jon, whether it's a case of parental alienation, you poisoning them, lying about their dad, or maybe Jon's just not that great of a father. But either way, I'd love to hold an intervention for the 2 of you to stop taking everything out on each other in the media, because honestly, this helps no one. And you can't be the pot calling the kettle black when your past with these kids is not clean. Maybe now at age 16 that the kids are bigger than you and maybe stronger than you, you can't do these things to them, but you did do these things to them when they were little, shaping how they view the world and how they respond to the life around them. You also instilled, apparently, according to you, fear into your children. What kind of parent wants their child to be afraid? Couldn't the same be said to you, Kate, that maybe the kids shouldn't be around you? Maybe the kids would be better off without both of you. There are times when I think about your brother and his wife, and I'm like, maybe Aunt Jody would take the kids. Maybe Aunt Jody would actually be a better fit for these children, because I'm betting that somewhere in the world, there are family members of both of yours that are just like, you both need to quit. All right. So Kate is going to keep talking to people. And I'm sorry I got off on that rant, y'all, but this bothers me with this straight hypocrisy. And Mr. Gosselin is going to blame Kate. Here's the thing. Jon was a part of these kids' lives for the better part of they were divorced when they were in 2009. And the sextuplets were born in 2004. He was in that house for the formidable years of their lives. He was a witness to this behavior and probably did nothing to stop it. So in my opinion, his hands are equally as dirty when it comes to what he allowed and was okay with his children's upbringing, because if one parent's doing it, you know it's a discussion between both. And that just makes me feel icky about the both of them. I want to believe that Jon is doing the right things, but the fact that he ran to the Daily Mail and had to slam Kate and blame her for everything just tells me that he cannot be the bigger person ever. So what do you think? Does Jon need to lose the kids, or does Kate need to get a grip? Or do both of them need to go onto an island and just be there, the two of them, and have to be with each other until they work this out? Because maybe if they actually tried to speak, I mean, I know they say we can't talk, but like, how much of the ego do you think is in the middle of this? How much of the ego do you think contributes to the fact that both of them are so narcissistic that they cannot listen to one another? Because I've always been convinced that they're both narcissists. But I'm not a diagnoser and I'm not a doctor, so that's just like they display signs of it, let's just say. Now, Jon says that she's a straight narcissist and he claims she has a diagnosis. I mean, he said that. I don't know about Jon, though. All right, so tell me what your thoughts are in the comments below. Bye, guys.